Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Tong Yi, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your bravery, for your defense of human rights, freedom, and democratic values. At the outset of our committee work, what do we as Americans need to understand about Chinese culture, ideology, traditions to help us think about how we strategically compete with the CCP?
I think Chinese people fundamentally are not different from the American people. They all want more freedoms in all aspects of their lives. And the most recent white paper protests showed that desire for living a normal, free life in China. But because of the draconian zero COVID policy, that deprived them of their most basic freedom, such as even get sick at their home and be forced into a quarantine center. So the young people rose up. From the tradition, I wouldn't say, the traditional Chinese would just obey the authority. Look at what Taiwan has showcased us, that the traditional Chinese values, they keep that very well, but they also live in a very vibrant democracy. So Taiwan's example is actually the sword for the CCP. That's why the main reason why they would like to take Taiwan over, to say that the Chinese people only deserve dictatorship, but it's not true. Since 1949, there are multiple movements, freedom movements, such as the Democracy War Movement in 1978, Tiananmen Movement in 1989, and the Hong Kong people's demonstrations in a mass scale in recent years, and also these most recent protests that showcase that Chinese people just have the same values and principles like other Western people.
Mr. Pottinger, under President Xi, the Chinese Communist Party has vastly expanded digital surveillance of the Chinese people. The Chinese people are unable to do anything without the CCP being aware, and I understand that they aim to use all that personal data collected on individuals as a method of social control. I believe Ms. Tong Yi said it's something like a digital dictatorship. If this Orwellian state of affairs is not bad enough, the CCP has dramatically increased the export of surveillance technology abroad. Companies like Huawei, Beidou, WeChat, and others work on behalf of the CCP to route surveillance technology across the globe. Sometimes it's called safe or smart city systems, but in reality, these are tools for authoritarian governments to surveil citizens and repress human rights. But it gets worse. So these companies can gain access to any data these systems collect and hand it over to the Chinese state security. What's your view on this? We're going to need to develop strategies going forward and policies. What is your view, and how bad is it?
Congresswoman, thank you. I think that we need to have a much more rigorous defense and offense. On the defense side, it means that we don't allow those same capabilities that you were describing that are being used to impose what one former Chinese Communist Party official who's now in exile calls an exquisite totalitarianism, right? A digital dictatorship, as you put it. We don't want that to be exported onto our shores to give the Chinese Communist Party the ability to manipulate our own discourse and to steal our data and to silence and intimidate people, as it's already doing through social media platforms here in the United States. On the more offensive side, I would say that we're a free country. We don't need to peddle disinformation or deep fakes, which are now part of the stock in trade of the things that the CCP is experimenting with. All we have to do is connect people. We need to make it easier for Chinese people to connect with the outside world and see news and information flowing in safely without the digital panopticon of the Communist Party looking over their shoulder, and we need to make it easier for them to communicate with one another. I don't think we've tried very hard. So this thing that looks so formidable, I think, is actually made of paper mache. I think you can punch holes in the Great Chinese Firewall. I think we've not made a concerted effort, a public-private effort with Silicon Valley firms leading the way. Let's face it, Silicon Valley firms aren't going to gain access like Google and Facebook and others who've tried years ago to work in China. They've been banned. They have nothing to lose by working for the cause of freedom. And the U.S. government, there's a lot more that we can do in that front as well. I think we haven't gotten started yet.
Mr. Newhouse is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Gallagher, as well as Ranking Member Krishnamurthy, and I want to thank this evening's witnesses for being with all of us tonight. Just last week, the United